Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Investing Bros. Here's the thing. That's day 3 of that intro. That is a hype intro video. Like, I felt like going into that video, I was like, all right, let's go. We got the show on today. And then I listened to it and it, like, hyped me up. So if you guys didn't get your morning coffee in, like, Shroom's got that intro plus coffee running through his veins. Make sure you guys are woken up. Smash that like button already. This is the Investing Bros. We go live every single weekday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We cover Bitcoin, we cover crypto, we cover stocks, we cover the news, everything you need to know about investing. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining us, especially if you're coming back from yesterday and you're part of the Candle Mafia. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new, hit that subscribe because this channel is taking off. We got a lot to talk about today. Bitcoin is below. It's kind of hovering. We're kind of hovering right around 24,000. I think at the moment as I'm speaking, we're right over 24,000, but we're wrestling with it. And something that I want to unpack in today's show is this rally currently over? No, it isn't officially dead just yet, but it's running on some short time. If we cannot break through 25.2 soon, we might go ahead and kiss that $28,000, $30,000 price action over the next couple of weeks. Bye-bye. We might be shooting back down towards 20,000, maybe even going lower. If the bulls want to keep control, they're going to need to get some more juice very soon. We'll cover that in the TA. We'll cover that in the news. We got Fed minutes yesterday to talk about. Also some interesting stuff happening with some other people's opinions. I don't want to spoil too much of it. Make sure you watch the entire episode. I do want to throw it over to my co-host this morning. Again, super hyped up. T-Shroom, how are you doing this morning?
Better than I deserve, Tim.
Classic.
Yep. Doing really, really well. And, I'm excited for the show today. We've got some big prints, some big economic prints, the GBT we'll get to in just a second.
Boom.
And let's go ahead and check out the quote of the day, which is, when you stop expecting people to be perfect, you can like them for who they are. That's Donald Miller. And for all of you micromanagers out there, stop micromanaging and appreciate people for what they're doing. And if they're not the person for the job, then you got a tough decision to make. That's the message of the day. What do you think about that message, Tim?
It's a good quote. I would take it a step further. The truth is, and this is kind of sad, but it's actually very freeing, I think people need to stop putting so many expectations on others in general, like altogether. Obviously, there's certain expectations you put on, like with your spouse, you kind of have an expectation that they're going to be faithful to you.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to a restaurant, you kind of have an expectation the food won't kill you.
Right.
So you got to keep some very basic expectations. But I learned a very long time ago, people and the human race is capable of anything, both good and bad. So if you expect someone to be completely evil, sometimes they might surprise you and they might do something that's actually really good. And on the flip side, there's people we hold on these pedestals that we have these really high expectations of, and then they let us down and we get crushed. Learn to just not put people in boxes with these crazy expectations. Don't be surprised by things. Just keep flowing. When something bad comes in, keep moving. When something good comes in, keep moving. That's a big proponent I've had for a while, is just don't try to hold people to anything too much. They might surprise you.
Quick answer. Who's the person you've put on the pedestal the most in your life?
Ooh, I don't know. I've been let down by
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, wow. That would not have come to the top of my list, but you would think.
Barack Hussein?
No, probably not. I don't honestly know if I have a good answer for who I have put on the highest pedestal.
Hopefully not Kanye West.
I would say this is not going to mean anything to anybody, but one of my best friends growing up, his dad is as close to perfect as you can be as a human, while still being, a human.
Gotcha.
So maybe him, but even him, I wouldn't. If something came out bad, I'd be like, "Wow, that sucks." But humans are capable of anything.
All right. Well, you hear that, Steve Shroom? He's talking about you.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into what the stories we're going to be talking about. I said Steve Shroom. Did you hear that? That's crazy. Steve Shroom, my father. Okay. We're going to be getting into Blur a little bit. A couple of developments from them. One of them is actually pretty fun and exciting, inspiring for some of you young people, hopefully. And then we've got some U.S. representatives, some politicians saying the right things. We were going to cover the Fed minutes from yesterday, but plot twist, it was pretty much a nothing burger in summary. Fetch has made a partnership, Fetch.ai, which is kind of cool. XRP will be tuning in on XRP. There's been a development there. Not a big development, but just kind of tuning in. We don't want to leave that story alone for too long, and that's gonna be it. There'll be a couple more things that we cover, but that's gonna be the stories in the second half, guys.
Boom. Awesome. Well, let's engage with chat here for just a second, then we'll jump on. I got a good amount of TA I want to go through. Just looking at Bitcoin and the Dixie, and then we might look at some other coins as well. Link has had it's been like the leader of some of the bigger coins, so we might take a look at Link. In fact, that's what's on my screen at the moment, so I'm gonna change that just in case your finger just goes over there and hits my screen. Now, did you get? Okay.
No, I wasn't gonna do it.
You faked him out. All right. Well, who was the first? I can't even see who's the first because I have my poll. Who?
It was Yair Navarro.
Yair Navarro's back in first.
And
Come on.
What's also impressive about being first there is he had quite a few words to type in.
He did.
So I'm guessing that you had that already typed out and you pasted it in there. Yair, let us know. Is that the case?
Wow. Mr. J, he's not even in the first little grouping. I mean, he falls into like the, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Sixth comment. So
yeah, pretty wild.
Mr. J, he didn't get his coffee in this morning. But let's read some of these other names here. CBD Suddy is in the house as well. Mike Play, John Kahn. Speaking of Mr. J, shout out to him. He is the one to beat. He usually holds that trophy of first comment, but can't win them all, you know. Crypto Trades here. Mellow Fellow is here. Mr. Bitcoin himself. V Slim. T Shrooms here saying aloha. Are you going to Hawaii anytime soon?
No.
Oh, okay. Good. Let's see who else is here. Fergan Dad. I think that's how we're going to go with that one. Alton Henderson, the classic IT guy, is here. Good to see you here. Let's see. Seek and Hunt. Who else do we got? Paper Planes 210X. Servando Estrada. Crypto JMP, Stows Majid, Win Peoples. Who else do we got here? Tyler Main is here. Cryptex is in the house. Eric Wallen is here, and he commented his vote as well. In case you guys don't see that poll, go ahead and go vote on it. Which do you prefer? Waffles or pancakes? It seems like a simple little debate, but I think it actually gets complicated. And as we speak right now, I want to see more votes. But it's sitting at 50-50. With 46 votes, we have like almost 70 people watching, so some people have not voted just yet. But which do you prefer? Are you a waffles type person? I know they say like sometimes men's brains work like waffles, women like spaghetti. Men, we just like to fill up one square at a time.
I have never heard that.
You've never heard that?
No.
Okay, well, you learned something new today. And so pancakes, you just put it right in the middle, let it drizzle off to the side. Sometimes I will say I'm kind of split on this one myself, even though I put it in there. Pancakes are simpler.
They are.
To make and just even eating through. There's nothing fancy about them. Waffles, there is that temptation to try to cut out each square at a time and eat it one at a time. So maybe waffles are better because it makes you eat slower, and so you end up eating less of them maybe. I don't know. You see, this debate goes deeper than it should. Yeah. 51% is saying pancakes at the moment, so we'll see how that one goes.
For me, back in 2008, I used to be a big voice in this conversation, so I'm not going to weigh back into it. I have too many people that'll be disappointed by what I have to say.
Yeah, it's good self-awareness there.
I appreciate it.
Let's read a couple more names here. Donovan Jarvis, Brad Geidel, Justin Eubanks, Henry C. Hernandez, Crimson Caravan Company. I think I read that wrong. Crypto Set Guy is in chat as well. And I think Crypto Vet is in the house saying waffles. So, I think, waffles are in the lead at the moment. We'll see. Maybe we'll tune in back at the end of the show. If I did not read your name, I'm so sorry. It does not mean I don't love you, but it is 9:09, and so it is time to jump over to the charts, take a look at what is happening here. So, T-Shroom, why don't you go over there? This is the Bitcoin chart right here, and on the surface, when we're looking at the daily chart, not necessarily anything crazy happening here. RSI, nothing special on the daily chart. MACD, we did just cross. Well, we haven't crossed yet. We're about to have a bearish MACD cross on the daily chart, so that's something to keep an eye on. The other one I want to keep your eye on, I might shift over here in a little bit and look at the Chart Prime channel, but I did bring up the Chart Prime indicator. What I'm not concerned about is this bearish divergence it's forming right here. So that's one of the cool features about Chart Prime's indicator. And if you don't have it, we now have a link down below. You guys can go get it today. Phenomenal indicator. One of the things it does help you with is know when there's divergences, but you do need to know when to discredit some. So this red line right here, it starts all the way back at this peak right here. It goes up. I've talked to you guys before. I'm not looking at this necessarily as a divergence because the divergence more sits in the package of this little price hump. And then if you're looking at the RSI, you're looking at this price bump right here. So other people are going to draw this line and say, oh, Tim, there's bearish divergence. And of course, Chart Prime even put it right there. This is not the strongest divergence I've seen. Now, what's problematic about it, though, and some people are going to say, well, Tim, it is playing out like divergence, is we did just get a blue reversal dot or peak. This isn't a reversal dot, actually. I've been learning more about this. This is just a blue dot implying a peak, and it's actually a pretty good call. By no means are you supposed to use these blue dots and say it's over, but look at the other times we've had these blue dots here at the bottom that we had back here on this is back in September on the 21st. You know, here's another bottom right there, another bottom. We had a top right there. We had a top right there. So these blue dots have come in pretty clutch. I would say when you get all of the above, when you get the bearish RSI, when you get a blue dot up top, and even if you go to scratch, and it doesn't look like we're going to get one, but if you were to get an overbought orange square or rectangle, that would be the trifecta. So this is something to keep an eye on. It's not the end. It's not saying for sure that the rally's done, but it is something to keep your eye on. We have a couple things on the oscillators calling to the downside, but let's kind of zoom in here. I'll take my oscillators down. Let's zoom in, go to the 4-hourly chart, and take a look at what happened last night in terms of price action. We technically broke a little bit above it, but this could have been a little more of a fake out. I put this on the Discord, that after falling and breaking through this rising level of support, it did do something that is bearish, and that is discredit this ascending triangle. Ascending triangles have flat tops of resistance, rising levels of support, and traditionally these break to the upside. But yesterday, in preparation for that Fed minutes announcement, people got really bearish, and we ended up breaking it, invalidating it. So you might be saying, all right, Tim, why are we talking about an invalidated ascending triangle? Because despite the fact that the formation itself is invalidated, the levels of support and resistance now turned back into resistance are still very significant. Watch as we came back up. Yes, we broke through here on the 4-hourly chart, but we kind of rejected it right around that same zone and came back down. This is a bearish move because this is a former level of support. We have now just turned into resistance. So this line, despite the fact that it's no longer being a part of an ascending triangle, is still very important. I'm also going to continue to watch that flat top of 25.2. Of course, it had relevance even before we created this little triangle right here. It had relevance all the way back here in August when we peaked out here on the 14th and started a new trend to the downside. So what we're looking at right now, again, this is kind of micro. The good news is we stayed above this little zone right here. I would say that as long as we stay above this little blue little box, there still is a chance that we're rallying up towards 28,000. We can break through 25.2, but we are running out of time. Whereas everything up here, as we started to set higher lows and kept hitting our flat top, this was a whole area where it was like we were taking chunks out of that wall at 25.2. The bears were losing steam. The bulls were taking over. Well, guess what? When we fell right here, this kind of discredited all of that momentum. And it's kind of back in a 50-50 zone where both the bulls and the bears can't decide what they want to do. I don't know why. Beamer is barking. I don't know if they can hear that on the mic.
Probably not.
It's distracting to me.
Yeah.
Can you stick your head out there and just go fuss at him for a second?
I'll go tame the Beamer.
Tame the Beamer. He's worked up about this price action right now. But go back to my screen. I'll be on my chart.
He's probably more upset about the waffles in being in the lead. Oh my gosh, he's really going for it. He's upset about something. Let us know in the chat if you can hear him.
Goodness gracious, he's upset. I have no idea what he's doing. Anyway, let's keep moving on here. Sorry, guys. Beamer's trying to get his little 2 minutes of fame in here. But yeah, so we're working here. If we cannot reclaim these support levels, if we can't get back above this rising level support, if we don't start making a serious push towards that 25.2 once again, the bears could easily take back over control and start to push us back down to the downside. Now, here's another thing I want to kind of bring up, and we don't usually do this. I'm going to pull up an article, an opinion piece article, and I want to address what is happening here. Which one do we have here? All right, so it's this one right here. It's a CoinDesk article posted, I believe, this morning, and it's talking about Elliott wave. So the headline right here: Bitcoin stuck in a bearish Elliott wave pattern despite 47% rally. Yeah. Not really important. Let's kind of scroll down to what the graph is right here. All right, so I don't know who this is. They're doing Elliott waves. And here's what I can tell you right off the bat. If you guys have seen Elliott waves done, it is complicated. There are some people that think they know what Elliott waves are, and they end up being wrong. I'm not going to profess to be a perfect analyst when it comes to Elliott waves, but I do know that there are things that are more complicated than fits the eye. I don't know why. Beamer is still, even with T-Shirm out there, he's still going crazy. We'll have to see why that is. Anyway, so let's keep moving on here. Elliott waves. He proposes right here. I'm going to shift over back to my screen and draw you guys. But he proposes that what we currently are sitting at is the fourth wave of a 5-wave Elliott wave. There's a lot of waves in there. And he's saying that, again, this could be the wave that takes us down to 10,000. Let's go back over to my screen. Let's kind of break this apart. And what I'll do is I'll even shift over to a different chart, an empty chart. Let's see, do I ever use Kraken? Doesn't look like I do. This will be a good chart to go ahead and draw this on. All right, so what we have here is when you're using Elliott Wave, you want to do 5 waves. So we'll start here at the top. This is very clearly the first wave being ended. We'll go up to this top right here to say this second wave. Now the question becomes, what constitutes the third wave and what constitutes the fourth and fifth? So what he's saying in this chart is you do not come down to this bottom. He actually wants you to come all the way down to the bottom we had in November after that FTX crash. And so now he's going to put it there and go up with his fourth wave. So then that needs a fifth wave to come down to the downside. And, you know, he's proposing here. I'll go to the log chart. That'll make it a little easier to see there. He's proposing somewhere around that $10,000 level. This is what he's kind of saying this would look like. All right. I want to give kind of a pushback on this one and propose that there could be something different. Why did he go from all the way back in March of 2022 when we had 48,000? Gosh, he's still going. Is he Bart? What is he?
So it sounds like we need an update. There's an AC repair guy who thinks that he's supposed to be here. Is there supposed to be an AC repair guy?
He's not supposed to come until 12.
Okay. All right. Well, if Beamer continues, that means he's standing outside waiting for me to tell him that.
Can you go put him in the garage crate? That's going to be the best bet.
No.
Yeah.
Not little Beamy.
I know. He's just going to be barking, especially if that guy's supposed to be coming in here.
What was our quote of the day?
Oh, goodness.
Just kidding. I don't think it was even relevant. All right. I'll go make that happen, guys. Sorry.
This has been an entertaining one, to say the least. It's disruptive of thought. I'm so sorry, guys. We're getting through the show today. I'll go and read the super chat. Elo Brown says, bark. Do you guys hear that? Beamer said waffles. Yeah. I'm glad to know if that is true. If there's a repairman in here, I'm glad to know. This is a good sign. Beamer's doing his job. The repair guy's not supposed to be here till noon, so I don't know why he's here right now. But let's jump back into this. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm gonna counter and argue with this guy's proposed Elliott Wave points. I'm actually going to say I think that this third wave should have ended right back here in June. And I think, yes, it was short-lived, but I think that actually we should put the fourth wave right there, that peak we had back in August, and then the fifth wave here at the end of FTX, which would completely change the narrative of what this guy is kind of proposing using Elliott Wave theory, that we should go down to 10,000. Is it possible that I'm wrong and that we really should be moving the fourth wave over here? We should put the fifth wave, somewhere over towards 10,000 and the third wave down towards the bottom? Absolutely is. This is where you get into the complications of Elliott Wave theory. Here's what I'll say about this. I think wave 1, 2, very simple. I don't think you're going to see a lot of difference of opinion there, but I think you're going to see people kind of say, hey, if they're leaning more bullish, they're going to put the end of wave 3 back here in June. If they're more bearish, it's going to be very convenient to put it over here. This kind of helps tell your story. Either way, there's a lot more to unpack with Elliott Wave there. There's a lot more things that could be happening, but I did want to offer a counter thought there that could easily be the same thing we're looking at right here. We don't get back above a former level of support, so that doesn't cancel out this 5-wave theory. This, if we didn't know anything about this price action, like if I were to go to replay and I were to go to right here, and this is all we could see, that would look like a very clean Elliott Wave pattern. So that's why I just want to kind of update you guys on what's happening there, kind of express to you guys I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of what we see going on with this article, but it is something, if you guys, I wanted you guys to hear counter thoughts, counter opinions, so keep those in mind. Let's go back over to the Bitcoin chart and take a look over here. I think that's about all I wanted to do with traditional TA. Let's look at the moving averages, see what is happening there. Of course, you're going to find we're still above all the daily moving averages, so that is a good sign. This orange line is the 20. So again, I told you guys, as long as we stay above this blue box, we're good. Could we see a crash down and retest to the 20? That's something I would keep an eye on. Weekly chart, we were unable to break through and capture that 200 weekly. It is acting as resistance. This red level also is the 50. We have a little death cross right here on the weekly chart. I still think this means nothing, but guess what? The bears are going to come out and say, see, that death cross was a good call. We could reject right here and head back down to the downside. We will have to see. Either way, this is still lining up to be very beautiful. The last thing I'll say here is keep your eyes on other developments that we could see happen. Let me take down my moving averages and just look at this from a bigger perspective here. This will not go down as one of the prettiest heads in the world. However, Could we see the other one is come down here to fill this CME gap, and then we get some form of an inverse head and shoulders pattern? This is going to be early on. I doubt you're going to see any other analysts talking about this, but technically speaking, if this ends up being a flat neckline and our price action does end up dipping down here and coming back down to fill this CME gap that we have, could we see this inverse head and shoulders pattern form, and then we get a move to the upside? I'm going to keep you guys posted on that. We have a very long time before that plays out and gives us anything of significance, but it is something to keep your eyes on, even if we have a major bearish pullback, that we could still be setting up a very bullish formation in the long run. Let's take a look at what's happening on, before I go to Chart Prime, I actually want to take a look at what's happening on Dixie, because this is another factor that will play into why Bitcoin either rises or falls. At the moment, it is continuing to climb over here. This is the Dixie chart, but it's still double topping, hitting its head right here at the 0.382 level. This is going to be very important that we either hold this if we want Bitcoin to move to the upside. If it breaks through, then that could be part of the catalyst that takes Bitcoin down. But right now, it is hitting its head on resistance. And even when you start to pull up RSI, MACD, when you pull up these indicators, we're starting to see out here on the daily chart, we are starting to see the bearish signs come in on the Dixie. So this is one example I would look at and say, all right, these peaks, there's not necessarily a lot going between them. This isn't part of something else. We are starting to form, if we do top out and pause, we are starting to form a trend line of bearish divergence on the Dixie. So this could be a good sign right here. Price levels going down, RSI going up. Of course, this isn't over until we start getting some red candles on the daily chart for the Dixie to show that this little push is over, and then that solidifies it. But when you move down, we go towards the 4-hourly chart. This is where we're getting very clear bearish RSI divergence, where we are getting peaks and things that are saying, hey, it's kind of getting overextended. It's getting overbought. It might be time to reverse back down to the downside. So keep your eyes on what's happening here with the Dixie. We do have on the daily chart, we do have our Fibonacci levels saying, hey, we're at a key level on the log chart of being in a good place of resistance. We're seeing the RSIs, we're seeing the oscillators saying, hey, we're getting a little overextended. Let's take a look at one more thing. Let's look at the Bollinger Bands, just kind of keeping climbing up. So that's not really telling us anything. It could go up, could go down at that point with what we see there. Let's look at SMAs right here. Nothing necessarily happening. We have that's a form of a death cross, not a very strong one, and a little bit of a golden cross kind of coming in, but these are two of the more insignificant ones. So not necessarily going to glean any new information from those. Keep your eyes on this level right here, 104.34. Can the bulls of crypto and the stock market hold it? And can we continue the upside, or does the Dixie break through? This will be very interesting. I don't know if we're going to cover this story, so I'll mention it right now. One thing that is very interesting is I did read an article that, man, I don't want to butcher. I think it's Iraq.
Okay.
I think it's Iraq. So it could be it could be a different country, but they're opening up trade with China, where instead of the traditional way of settling the trade exchanges in US dollars, they're actually going to do it in Chinese yuans. So this is a major difference in how trade has been done. Traditionally, global trade is done with US dollars.
Right.
This is that first little kind of attack on the US dollar being the more dominant global currency. This would affect the Dixie. So this could be one of the things that would help crypto. It would help the stock market. It would help the Chinese yuan, but it's something to keep your eyes on. Soj Majid said yes, so I don't know if he's saying yes to Free Beamer in chat, because there's a lot of hashtag Free Beamer, and then, or if he's saying yes to it's the country of Iraq. If you can do some research on that, just find and confirm that.
Okay. Is this something that happened a while ago or something?
I saw it breaking news today. Breaking news today. Let's go back over. All right, so we did our little Dixie there. Let's go back over to Bitcoin. Let's take a look at our just a couple ranges we're seeing here with Chart Prime. Again, fantastic indicator. On the hourly chart, we are rejecting off of the dynamic reactor, but we're using this little gold band as support. Also, we're seeing the premium discount levels. We're not really that far apart. We're kind of in on the hourly chart a constriction mode, in which case that would imply breakout is coming soon. As we start to move up here on the indicator, we're going to see it spread out just a little bit. There's a 4-hour sign. We are flashing oversold on the 4-hourly chart. Let me go ahead and take down the RSI. We don't need its opinion right now. We are flashing oversold and bouncing off of the resistance level, the green resistance level, close to the equilibrium. So this is a bullish sign for Bitcoin. It kind of might explain this morning why we're pumping back up over 24,000. But again, you're seeing there we're now entering into a range of constriction with these reversal zones, with that premium resistance level still hovering right above us around 25,200. This is still really important. And the last one I'll look at here, daily chart, we're still constricting on the reversal zones here as well. I talked about it earlier. We did get this blue peak dot. That doesn't mean it's over. That doesn't mean it has to go to the downside, but we did get that blue dot, which marks tops and bottoms, and we're bouncing off that premium level. We're sitting in a spot right now. I kind of introduced the entire technical analysis section with this. We're sitting in a spot where it's like, hey, the bulls aren't necessarily done, but they're running out of juice and they need to pick up some more if we're going to break through this resistance and head to the upside. That is the Bitcoin TA that we have for you guys today. Let me know in the comments. You guys are already letting me know what your thoughts are about Beamer. Maybe I'll have to ask Beamer what his thoughts about Bitcoin. Let me know what you guys think as well. A lot of interesting stuff happening. We're going to talk more about the Fed minutes in this article section, but kind of how I predicted, they were nothing burger. We fell in anticipation of something really hawkish. Ended up bouncing because it was a nothing burger, but we didn't gain back all the momentum I thought we would, which to me is another sign the bears have a little more control than we thought they did, but not enough to fully control the next pace. Let's take a look. I told you guys I'd tease this one. Link has been doing phenomenal. I actually I'm looking at the chart prime. I want to go over to look at it over here, just traditional TA. Link has been probably one of the best coins if you are just straight up trader. It has been in this nice zone, and you guys could even probably make an argument here that this has been a nice little Wyckoff accumulation zone, just hovering. We kind of had a low volume dip right here. So could this be a spring in a Wyckoff accumulation period? I think it potentially could. The only thing I haven't seen that could mean we come down here one more time, and if Bitcoin goes down again, more than likely Link will as well. While we got our low volume bottom, we didn't necessarily get a lot of volume springing up out of it. So one thing you want to look at after a spring is a confirmation volume. So we still have time to bring that in. As long as we hit that volume before we get up above resistance level, then we could say, all right, this would be our spring right here for a new breakout. But for trading in general, if you guys have been watching it and have these two zones, support and resistance zones put up here, this is beautiful. This is like a trader's favorite thing. This is a trading range to long and short, as worst, to long and short Link by 64%, and it has played in these zones very, very beautifully. So Link looking good. It is rallying. The reason I brought it up is it's up today. When I went over to the bubbles this morning on the daily chart, these are some of the favorites, meaning bigger cap altcoins, ones that more people pay attention to. It's the biggest one in the last 24 hours. It's up 8.1%. So keep your eyes over there on Link. Watch for when we get back up towards $9.34. That's gonna be the big decision point. Did this low volume spring actually amount to anything? Are we gonna finally break through, or is this just one more level of rejection? We'll have to keep our eyes on that. I'll go ahead. I told you, I kind of pulled it up here, so I teased it. Let's take a look at what Chart Prime is saying. We're sitting at a resistance level, but we got a lot above us to get back up towards. Yeah, so that premium level is sitting right up there at the at where I had drawn with my traditional TA. That's like the same exact level if you guys are looking at those price actions. So it's saying the next level to watch for rejection is that same level. Discount, that's pretty funny. Discount level is sitting. I didn't plan this. I just drew this chart over here a long time ago, and sure enough, it's exactly what Chart Prime is saying right now is the premium and discount levels to be buying and selling at right now. Well, guys, that is the crypto TA for today. I want to take a second before we go into the stock market. Let's engage with chat here just a second. I saw another super chat come in from Liberty Above All. He said, great show today. Got here late, catching up. Love y'all.
Heck yeah.
Love you too, Liberty Above All. Thank you so much.
Do you agree with that? Do you think liberty is above all?
Liberty should be above. Well, I mean, what's your definition of all? You know, and then I said that as a joke, but I'm being dead serious. Someone said earlier when I responded when T-Shirm asked me who is the person I put on the highest pedestal. I didn't say Jesus because what I was saying, the whole point was don't put your expectations on things. People let you down. Jesus is the one person in my life that has not let me down. Like literally, even the people I love, everybody I love, my parents, my friends, everybody lets you down. I've let everyone I know down. Jesus is the one that doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So that is the easy answer. So I went with human. I went with a human that will let you down, but who is the closest to not letting you down? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's see here. Let's see what was happening in chat because I was trying to do TA. What was chat doing all throughout the Beamer fiasco?
It just freaking out. You know, just not good. The AC guy got here early, and Beamer was ready to attack. So, but then the AC guy left. I went out there and gave them some cuddles, and they were very excited to receive those reassuring cuddles. Well, we can jump back into chat.
I want to read a couple of these. Eric Wallen says we don't trap bros in cages, Tim. You're right. You're right. I mean, here's what I'll say about Beamer. Beamer, his escape artistry has continued to push. We talked about he's trying to climb the fence. We have him now on a leash. He's trying to dig under the fence. But again, I am glad. Like, I didn't realize I thought he was just freaking out for no reason. I'm glad to know that there was someone trying to get in our house.
Yeah.
And he did not like that.
Yeah.
That's a good dog.
Beamer is not compatible with polite Western society.
But trying to run a show in the room right next to a screaming pooch is very hard.
It is. It presents a difficult challenge, but it was one that we were able to overcome as we came together. And Iraq, to allow trade with China in yuan, says their state media, it is the first time imports would be financed from China in yuan, as Iraqi imports from China have been financed in USD. That's from the government's economic advisor, this person, and they told Reuters that on Wednesday. Another option would have been to boost local banks' balances via the central bank's accounts with JP Morgan and the Development Bank of Singapore, it added. Another alternative would be to settle in a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
It would be. But the problem is now you're talking about with China, and China's not. They're flipping back. I mean, after all those years of them banning and saying that crypto is stupid, they're softening.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're ready to full blown
yeah.
do trade in crypto yet.
No, I don't think so either, but we may be getting there soon. And one thing we will absolutely be getting to soon is the market open. So let's go ahead and do that. You guys see I got an optimism chart pulled up here. That is because optimism is just rocketing.
Yeah.
And also there was an update. DB Twitter account said Coinbase announced Base, an Ethereum layer 2 network powered by Optimism. I think that's what that blue dot was. So that could be pretty big. Just continued upside movement for Optimism there, as it's up over $3 and doesn't look like it's going to be showing any signs of stopping yet, because those green histograms on the 45-minute chart. Why am I on the 45-minute chart? On the daily chart, yeah, less signs of stopping. Anyway, so making a run for that those a new high. All right, let's go ahead and start our opening market here. Oil is up quite a bit. Goodness gracious. So I don't know if this has to do with those Iraq headlines. Probably not. There might be something in the news we're missing here, Tim. Might be good to just go on CNBC and just see if there's any kind of global.
I'll take a look.
Global stuff going on, because energy prices are shooting up here, guys. I would say, I've been tracking natural gas. We've been tracking natural gas. This could be potentially a sign of a reversal here. I wouldn't necessarily get into it too quickly, but natural gas has definitely been on the decline for a while now, and it could be the time that it finally hits a rebound. Oil putting in a higher low here. As you can see, this trend line here, if you were to draw it, putting in a higher low here, but still remaining below that 76 line on the charts. Moving down into the indexes, you can see that we got green on the screen with our big three here. NASDAQ up 1.2%, leading our indexes on the day. So that's pretty good here in the early minutes of the New York session. Let's see, the Dow Jones is the lagger here, but is still getting bought. Zooming out to crypto, you can see it's mixed, although Optimism is decidedly up 11.3%. I can't imagine that wouldn't be the leader, but let's make sure it is definitely the leader here. And you also have some red names here: XRP, AVAX, XLM, down on a day when Bitcoin is also down, but Ethereum is up. So very mixed day for crypto, guys. This could be a good glimpse into what projects are getting bought and why, because it's not one side or the other. Most of the time when we look, especially in the first minutes of the New York session, you're seeing just red or just green. So the fact that there's a good mixture here is could be indicative of some underlying value in those projects. Gold getting bought just barely, clinging onto that green status, and silver is getting sold here. Mega cap tech, green across the screen, and Tesla is going to be your leader this morning. So that's really, really interesting. Google getting sold. So let's keep moving. Bonds are mixed. 10-year yield is up 0.1%, but overall pretty much red. Check in on the Dixie really quickly. It's up, just barely clinging that green status. Trying to test higher to see how much further it can go before it starts to make its move downward. Cannabis, green, other than CGC. And your mid-cap tech stocks are up, especially C3.ai is leading the way this morning. So AI is not quitting, although it looks like it's still pretty well within this trend line here. Hasn't broken out of that quite yet if you draw it, if you're inclined to draw it on the wicks. All right, well, that's going to be it, other than our oil producers, but they are green. And that's, something you'd expect. Tim, did you find anything on the oil energy front?
I'm not finding anything about oil. I am seeing things about NVIDIA, shares up 13%, and it's just talking about AI bullish in general.
Yeah, NVIDIA's up a lot.
I'm not finding anything to do with oil. So maybe
worries.
it does have to do with that China-Iraq deal. I don't know.
Maybe. My guess is that America probably did something with its reserves, or there's some kind of weather forecast in the future, or maybe it's fine. They're coming to find out that the stock of natural gas in Europe is actually not as robust as they thought it was going to be for the spring. So that is going to be your market open, guys. So I'd say it's pretty good. I mean, the market is reacting positively, at least in the first couple minutes of the New York session, to the minutes as of yesterday. So let's go ahead and dive into that, because let's get it out of the way. It was pretty much a nothing burger, but you don't want to completely count it out. You want to be educated on what we're looking at here. So what's that?
There's a chat. Elo Brown says that you were vague with your story. He said, did T-Shirm give snuggles to Beamer or the AC guy? That part of the story was not very clear.
I'll leave it up to your imagination, Elo Brown. Just know that I'm a very, very good snuggler. Let's keep moving. All right. Fed minutes. Too little to shake crypto markets, with BTC down 2.7% is the headline from cryptoslate.com. Got a couple of highlights here for you guys. Let's get into the details. As expected, the Fed also said the percentage change in the in the price index for personal consumption expenditure, PCE, over the course of 12 months indicated a decline in consumer price inflation during November and December. Bullish. Inflation level remaining high at 5% in December, the minutes showed. Bearish. So that is the balance in which we are dealing with and what the Fed is dealing with on a monthly basis. Some participants expressed their support for raising the target range for federal funds rate by 50 basis points. However, most participants agreed that while the committee had made progress in tightening the monetary policy, inflation remained above the committee's 2% target, and the labor market was still tight, contributing to upward pressure on wages and prices. What did I get? What do we say, guys? Pretty much a nothing burger here.
Yeah.
It was just straight down the middle. Jerome Powell and the Fed seemed to not want to surprise the market at all. They're just wanting to kind of give it to you right down the middle. No confusion. Very predictable. Tim, what you got?
This is, like I said, this is kind of a nothing burger. What the reading that I did on this morning, it does sound like there are still some people within the Fed that are going to want to vote, and they still think we should go 50 basis points. Or rather, it's saying that they thought we should have, which is confusing because supposedly it was a unanimous vote, so they must have convinced them, hey, just stick with 25 for now. But the reason why this is a nothing burger, it was a nothing burger that was both hawkish and dovish, is it was the same type of mood as what Jerome Powell had during the FOMC meeting, in which he said, hey, inflation is showing us signs that it is getting under control, but we still think we want to be aggressive, getting on top of it to get it closer to 2%, then start to ease up, and then it gets out of control again. So the same way, remember we called it, what do we say? Do we say Dockish or hover? What do we say?
Duckish.
Duckish?
No, I think it's Dockish.
Duckish? I don't know. The FOMC meeting was a mixture of hawkishness and dovishness. So was this. So the narrative hasn't changed. And that's why, again, I thought that we would just shoot back up. The fact that we have not shot back up, this is something to still keep an eye on, because whereas he was reassuring during the FOMC meeting, and he said, or it's not him, Jerome Powell, but whether the Fed was reassuring during FOMC, they said the same thing in this meeting, but it must not have been as reassuring as the FOMC meeting, because the response is not coming back overwhelmingly bullish. So this is something to keep an eye on for the next couple of days, hence the reason and the title of this video. I don't think that the rally is over just yet, but that nothing burger should have brought more bullish action, and it has not. So I'm kind of in the boat at the moment, T-Shroom. If we don't break through 25.2, I would say by the end of this week, and we just keep hovering, I actually give that as more of a win to the Bears than the Bulls, and gives them a little more control and power to potentially put some more negative pressure on the price.
Interesting, because it was kind of more likely they would break through, and it didn't.
Yeah, we got 27 days until the next FOMC meeting. My thought would be, let's push through now. Let's get those high levels. More than likely, the FOMC meeting is going to be a little more hawkish, because I do expect some other things. I mean, we're seeing oil raise right now. We're seeing, the cost of food still is going up. We could see them come out, even though it's still 25 basis points, say like, we still might have a recession here. And then the market ends up plunging and going back down into the 20s, the lower 20s after being in higher 20s. But if we don't even get up there, now a lot of things are still on the table with where the price could go.
Yeah. Okay. I can agree with that. Well, let's get back into some of these stories, because some of them are really fascinating, including this one here, guys. Blur founder Pac-Man revealed as 24-year-old high school and MIT dropout. That's not something you hear every day. It left me scratching my head, but it's exactly what it sounds like. He dropped out of high school and MIT. Let's read the details. Rockier is a 24-year-old who worked as a software engineer at the e-commerce site Teespring. Perhaps you've heard of it. Subsequently dropped out of high school. He then co-founded Strong Intro and took it through the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator. Rockier then did a 2-year stint at a Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Maybe you've heard of it. MIT is more the colloquialism there for that, before dropping out to found crypto domain startup Namebase, which he raised $5 million for and then sold to Namecheap within 3 years. So this guy is a mover and a shaker, entrepreneur through and through, and there he is. He's been revealed as the founder of Blur. I don't know if anybody was suspecting that, probably a few journalists out there, but he doxed himself after whispers of his identity swirled online. So interesting development there for Blur, which is an NFT platform that has, as far as I know, it's more successful than OpenSea. All of us, it happened very, very rapidly. So you could potentially see a lot more to develop in the NFT marketplace competition. So let's keep moving here. Representative Tom Emmer says Fed must not create digital currency surveillance state. Right off the bat, something I agree with. Any digital version of the dollar must uphold our American values of privacy, individual sovereignty, and free market competitiveness. Emmer wrote on a tweet Wednesday, anything less opens the door to the development of a dangerous surveillance tool. Well, it's hard to argue with that. It really is. But that's exactly what some politicians in the United States want. They want to be able to use digital currency, CBDCs specifically, to be able to surveil the market more closely. And of course, they're going to use arguments like, oh, well, it's more optimized, it's going to be more efficient. The economy, GDP will grow faster because banks and regulators will have more data and more access to know where resources and supplies can go more efficiently. And I say, hey, the economy probably would function more efficiently, but at what cost? At the cost of everything that he said here that are American values, right? Privacy, individual sovereignty, and free market competitiveness. We want those things, right? We don't necessarily need a more efficient economy, if marginally more efficient. And hey, the other thing is, why not let the private sector do that? If you're extremely interested in doing this, make it to where it's the surveillance is you can opt in or opt out and have it be on the private side. That's my take. And Representative Tom Emmer is kind of putting his neck out there and sticking up for our rights, our American rights. Now, I don't know much about this representative. He could upstand for some very messed up things out there. I don't know, but he seems to be getting it right here on crypto. Let's keep moving along. This is just going to read the headline here. Fetch.ai partners with Bosch to form a foundation to promote industrial applications using Web3 technology. Guys, I did a deep dive research yesterday on this project. Fetch.ai seems like the real deal. The founder is very, very well respected in the space. This is, yes, AI was a fad, is a fad, but as we saw here on the stock market side, C3.ai is getting bought this morning. So it's not over. It's not like
It's far from over.
It's far from over, guys. There's going to be peaks and valleys for sure, and we just went through a big peak, so maybe you want to hold off on purchasing it right now. I certainly did, but I have my eye on it like a hawk. This one and SingularityNet, although I have to give it to Fetch.ai in terms of those two names, but that's just my opinion. Moving along, we'll check in on the XRP story with this kind of bizarre story here. XRP co-founder posts cryptic message on survival of Ripple amid SEC crypto battle. We won't read too much here, but there are some details to get into. Schwartz says, when a scrappy financial startup takes on a web of corruption and betrayal to bring instant payments to the masses, they learn that the cost of disrupting the status quo is higher than they could have ever imagined, forcing them to decide between, and here's the controversial part, their vision and their survival. So could this be potentially an indication that Ripple is going to have to make some changes to their original vision in order to exist into the future, in order to escape the ire and of the SEC? This article goes on to say that last month, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse said an agreement with the SEC is not on the table. So it's win or lose for Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple. In court, Ripple's legal team has said that the lawsuit is centered on unprecedented and ill-conceived legal theories. So not liking the vibes there from the SEC is the Ripple legal team. And then we've got some fresh headlines here. I'll go ahead and refresh the page on decrypt.co, which is kind of one of my favorite news websites for crypto. As you'll probably notice, that's the one we use the most, although today we've got a nice little plethora of different tabs, so you can't see the tabs.
What a good word, plethora.
I really appreciate that, Tim.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
You're looking really handsome today, T-shirt.
Wow.
And you speak really good English.
Am I blushing?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Let's get into some of those stories there. Web3 social startup Towns raised $25 million, led by Andreessen Horowitz. And Andreessen Horowitz, a very well-respected Silicon Valley investor there. D-Gods and Utes are leaving Solana. Here's how it's going to work. That's a pretty interesting one. Getting some more NFT migration away from Solana's blockchain. Coinbase is building its own Ethereum Layer 2 network called Base. That is what we saw in that DB tweet, and that is more than likely the reason for the sudden ascent for OP, for Optimism Chain and its price. Retro-style Ethereum NFT marketplace game, World Wide Web raises $10 million. So definitely seeing plenty of investment around the crypto space. And then the last one I'll read here, Canadian regulators say no to algorithmic stablecoin. So that'll be interesting, because what's a big algorithmic stablecoin that just got released, or one that was at least marketed as algorithmic? JED. So perhaps JED could be kept from being used in Canada, although I don't know how the heck they're going to pull that off from an internet infrastructure standpoint, because VPNs exist.
I was in chat. Elo Brown was asking questions about, is it actually possible that our economy goes through what we just went through in the last 3 years and we don't have a recession? And I was like, well, possible, yes. Realistically, no. And my response to him was, the market moves on. We live in a world of delusion, and the market moves on whatever delusion we're believing that day. Well, the government of Canada is still living under the delusion that they can control their citizens with fear and a fist.
Yeah.
But they can't. Like, in the same way China, there's lots of people in China still trading and using crypto despite the fact that it's been banned. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there on a limb. I guarantee you there's still people mining in China despite the fact that that's been banned. Crypto is a world of, yes, governments can do whatever they want to try to drive fear, and they can try to enforce. And you know what? They might catch 0.001% of the people violating it. But crypto is bigger than what these governments can do, and they know it. Hence the reason they're so aggressive with these things, because they're trying to drive fear. Because they know that they spew delusion to people, but the problem is that a lot of people listen to their delusion. Crypto is almost like the wakening up and saying, hey, we're no longer going to just pretend like this delusion is reality. We're going to move forward with reality.
Yep. Yeah. I hate to say it, Tim, but I think that actually Canada can instill fear. The Canadian people are a lot more let's go along with the government than the Americans. And I know that because I listened to a podcast comedy podcast by two Canadians, and they talk about. I mean, they live in New York, so they're like Canada is just it's a bunch of lemmings, which of course is not all lemmings, but there's a lot of people up there who just they love to just do what the government says. So unfortunately, the way that cookie's probably going to crumble is that the people who have a big enough problem with that crypto law in Canada, if it actually goes through, they're just going to move to the United States, and then even less people who would be likely to stand up for themselves against the government are going to no longer care because they're not going to be living there anymore. That's why someone like Jordan Peterson is very, very important for North America, because he is standing up against the Canadian government and Justin Trudeau up there. Not to get super political, guys, but that's something to follow. They're the ones making this anti-crypto law, not me. So that's why we bring it up. Got some interesting stuff going here on the bubbles. We don't really take a look at it too much anymore because we've got an awesome intro. But Optimism here taking the lead in the top 100. Engine up 16% as well, doing really well. Lido and Mina doing pretty well this morning. And STX up 13%. So that's pretty darn good. That was one that I think I actually traded yesterday. Yeah. So that's actually pretty crazy.
You traded STX?
Yeah, how much more it went up yesterday. So very interesting. I sold before the rally, it looks like, on STX, but that's okay.
Well, if you go to the weekly,
I'm sorry. It was not STX. It was SNX, Synthetics. That's the one I traded. And yeah, so same thing though.
Go to the weekly screen real quick on the same thing. The STX,
on STX?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just hit the week bubbles.
Okay.
To the left.
Oh, gotcha.
To the left. There we go. 160.
Whoa.
But STX is, and then look at CFX over there.
Yeah.
118.
Yeah.
Been a good week for them.
Yeah. Well, by the same sword, we're seeing kind of what we want to see here on the Fear and Greed Index as well. Not too greedy, but also not too fearful. We're seeing it kind of in that happy medium phase. And Tim, it looks like you're not really agreeing with that statement.
Yeah.
Why don't you agree with that?
I think the second time.
What do you want to see from the Fear and Greed Index?
I want to see the price up with the fear up. I get that it's not. I hear what you're trying to say here, that it's not crazy high, but guess what? In comparison to where it's been recently, 56 is high. If we ever get a period where we're shooting up to like 80 or 90, then I will say 56 is good. But 56, if you're looking at the last year, that's a very, very high. That's a very high rating of greed compared to where we are in price action, where if you're comparing the price action of the last year, we're still very low. So I don't like the combo. If you're telling me we're sitting at 50 with a greed index of 56, all right, we're good. But we're sitting at 24,000. And at the last time, go back to what you were showing there and scroll down. I'm not going to pull it up. I'll let you kind of pull it up. Scroll down to the timeline. Go to max or whatever.
Max or whatever is not an option, but there is a max option.
You're right.
So
but go to the last time we were at these levels. So we're in a bunch right now, but go back to the last time we were at these levels that day. So
here?
There. Yep. What is that?
That is March 29th, 2002.
Guess where the price of Bitcoin was back on March 28th?
48,000. 48,000.
So we're sitting at the exact same levels despite the fact that we're half the price. That's not a good thing to me.
Gotcha.
Usually when the market's a little more greedy, that is more of a bearish pressure. Now, I'm not saying that alone is going to push us down, but if you're saying, just like everything else, you don't want to trade based off one indicator, you want to find a confluence. This is not a bullish confluence to be on 56 today with Fear and Greed Index.
Right.
To me, I would add that to the bearish category of what we're looking at in price action on Bitcoin.
Gotcha. Well, there's another popular indicator that we'd like to take a look at, and that is the CME Future Tool. So we called it a nothing burger, but it looks like the CME Future Tool has not interpreted it as a complete nothing burger.
Right.
Because if that were the case, it would have stayed at 24%, which is where it was yesterday, pre-minute print. And so that is 24% likelihood, of a 50 basis point hike. And so that moved up to 27%. So it was a 9% increase. And so 9% disagree that it was a complete nothing burger, the minutes. And that's up from 15% a week ago. So that is moving in the wrong direction. It's moving in the direction of a 50 basis point hike being what we get in March. Let's go on down the rabbit trail here, though. Let's see what it's predicting in May. Now, you're going to have to help me with the math here because
Yeah.
Well, these are basically the terminal rates, right? So, or the target rates.
All right. So we're currently at 4.75 to 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 69% is saying that this is what date?
May. That by May it'd be up 75.
All right. No. So what I'm looking at here, 69% are saying that in May they won't raise interest rates again. That after 25 they won't.
Oh, I see.
5.25 to 550 would be another 25, so 30% give or take, 29, but 30% are saying we're going to raise 25 again. And then 1.2 is saying that we're going to raise either 50 in this one or the next one on top of a 25. So at the moment, the lead on this is that March has a 25 basis point rate hike, and then we skip April, and then May they do nothing. That's what the leading prediction is now.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And the reason for that is Jerome Powell told us he's going to update the plots. But what we're sticking with right now is they've given us a target of 5.1, which is between 5 and 5.25. That's the target they want to get to. So until he updates the plots and says, you know what, guys, we actually want to get a 5.3. That's why these people are still predicting 5.25 is the end of it. That's what, even though we have a 7% chance of a 50 basis points, which would take us up to the 5.25 to 550. The reason why it's not very strong yet is because until we hear a change of tune from the Fed, they're still voting at this point to keep 5.1 or that 5 to 5.25 as their peak spot. And then at that point, they'll pause and continue to watch inflation, drop little by little, and then eventually they'll start easing again. If it starts to increase, now they're changing the plot automatically. The question is, are they changing that plot now, or are they going to wait till later? What do they want to see to change the plot? But that's why that math still looks like that. We don't know anything different from what they've told us before.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could find when the next SEP is supposed to come out, the summary of economic projections, but I just couldn't make it happen, unfortunately. But that's okay. So, yeah. So overall, the market is starting to get a little bit confused, right? And I'm talking about the stock market mostly, the equities market. And let's go ahead and look at at the SPY chart while I'm talking about this. There was a lot pricing in basically that we would have a pivot, maybe not by now, but that there would be talks of a pivot in the summer, in the early fall, and that just has not come. And so what does that do? Well, it starts to bring prices down, because what you could kind of assume is that the S&P was getting bought, right? Because there was anticipation of there was going to be a pivot, and you don't want to miss out on that. You want to go ahead and buy in early, because this thing, if there was a pivot, it's going to rocket higher. One of the only thing, money has just become more expensive because of these rate hikes, and companies don't do as well when money's more expensive, right? They're forecasting all goes down, and it hurts their bottom line. Some companies are able to thrive more than others in that time. A time of higher interest rates, but most are going to suffer in some way, right? Because money is just more expensive, and they have to be able to borrow money in order to do their business models. That is the case for most corporations. So what is happening right now? Thankfully, the S&P got up above this line of support, but right now it's really making a break for that. And I'd like to throw it over to Tim. Perhaps he could pull up the S&P and maybe even the NASDAQ. We could do a little analysis on this, because we don't look at the charts too much for the indexes. Every once in a while, we'll pull them up on the market open. But as you can see right now, the battleground is very much this level here, 39.7, right? So we tapped it, and we did not go lower, which is good. That's what you want to see on the daily chart here. I'll zoom out to the weekly, see if anything else is catching the eye. Yeah, so you can see on the weekly, we wicked down on that S&P, and I'll throw it over to Tim here in just a second, but I'll let him get acquainted with the charts there. You're seeing a descending histogram there on the MACD for the S&P on the weekly chart, and it is remaining up above the midline for the MACD. So just from a traditional technical standpoint, it's still well within bullish territory here. Not in a bull market for the S&P, for the stock market, but it's continuing its bull run. So I want to throw it over to Tim, just see kind of what's he thinking there about the S&P.
Yeah, I'm not seeing on the daily chart, I'm not seeing any either bullish or bearish divergence. Our chart prime oscillator gave us bearish divergence back here, which would be, again, it's one of the points I might not necessarily agree with that call of a divergence. Had some good, some semi-good peak calls here, although they're a little off. This is the most bullish thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at the SPX, is the S&P 500, is the fact that we were kind of sitting in a large megaphone pattern. And I talked about how, I remember back here I said, I doubt we're going to touch this line again. If we do, we're having an absolutely catastrophic breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, it could be go lower than this, yes, but 34.94, so 3,494. That's a good little bottom there. I think that's going to be the bottom. What's even better is this former level of resistance that we touched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times and then broke through. We just turned into support here over the last couple days. This took us a little bit to actually get to. So this is a very bullish sign in my boat. We bounced off of the 50 SMA on the daily chart. So that's really interesting. Let's take a look at what it's doing with the weekly chart. Kind of we're bouncing right here on the 50 weekly chart as well. So keep your eyes on that one. Let's pull up. I think it's just me too much. I don't think I can use Chart Prime in this. I think there's too much data. It just popped right up.
How many likes did we have to get in order to see
100. 100. They have to get 100 likes for Beamer to come on the show. Well, I don't know why this is popping up on this and it doesn't like doing it on Bitcoin, but I'll take it. I'll take that it wants to bounce up here. Let's take a look at what we have with the Chart Prime indicators, kind of seeing what's going on here. Got close to that dynamic reactor and the equilibrium. We did reject on the golden resistance band right there. We're getting a little bit of a constriction on the S&P 500 too, so watch as we continue to maybe just decline this little support line. There's a little support line developing right there. Good catch. I didn't draw that, didn't see that when my initial review, so Chart Prime's got me right there with that support level we're bouncing on once again. Watch us kind of ride this. We also have a resistance level we're turning into support that kind of matched that same level I had drawn. This is interesting. This is very interesting to watch. I actually would not be surprised to see us be a little volatile in here, maybe move a little to the downside, hit this dynamic reactor, maybe move a little to the upside, back up toward this golden band. But watch the resistance zones continue to constrict. Bollinger Bands are not as constricted, but they're a little more constricted, but they're not constricting more. So not necessarily anything I'm going to kind of tune in with there.
Yeah.
Daily chart, we don't really have an overbought or oversold signal just yet. Again, we had some bad called peaks right there. Yeah, I think I have to look in a little more. We're sitting in a spot right now with S&P 500 that I would say, hey, this isn't necessarily leaning one way or the other. Let's look at NASDAQ real quick, because that was one you mentioned. This line needs to be fixed just a little bit right there. We haven't yet retested that.
Looks like your screen's cutting out now.
It is.
Yeah, we'll skip the NASDAQ then. But the overall narrative here, though, guys, is that the market was expecting a pivot. And a lot of analysts think that was getting priced in, meaning that prices were ascending in anticipation for that pivot. Looks like we're not going to be getting it. The good news is that the market is not selling off, right? So investors, hedge funds, pensions, they don't want to just sell out too quick, right? They want to wait for the all clear. But there is a chance that the market could start selling off to reprice and unprice the pivot that it had priced in. So that's kind of what we were dealing with there, and it's a little bit different. So what I want to also talk about is how does Bitcoin react to that? Well, Bitcoin is not a 1-for-1 with this S&P by any means, definitely not. But with the NASDAQ, it does have a little bit of a stronger correlation. And so what we can expect is that Bitcoin will more than likely move with the equities market. That's just been the trend for a couple years now. It wasn't always like that, definitely not always like that. But once enough institutions started to hold Bitcoin, started to trade Bitcoin, then it became a lot different. And so it just, what we can expect here is if the market does start to sell off, the equities market does start to reprice a non-pivot, then we could expect Bitcoin to come down. Unless this is the time where Bitcoin decouples from the NASDAQ completely, and that could be almost as surprising as what we're about to see, which is your boy, Beamski. Oh, the good boy.
He's big.
He's a good boy.
Beamer, say hello.
Oh, he's a good boy.
We didn't quite hit the likes, but this is Beamer. He's been freed. He's protecting the castle.
Oh, buddy.
I think he's looking at himself in the TV.
Yeah, I think he gets it.
Yeah, he understands. Oh, gosh. What a way.
He's looking at. That's too funny. That's too funny.
Good boy, Beamer. Good
All right,
boy.
Beamer.
All right, I'm going to put you down.
Oop, oop, oop.
Okay, don't unplug anything. Ah, goodness. He's big.
He's big, yeah.
He's like 65, 70 pounds of nothing but muscle.
Yeah.
And I now have a wet microphone. This is
not what you want.
This is beautiful.
Oh, here he comes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, it is 10:04. We ran long. It was a chaotic show, mostly because of that little pupper right there.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a good one. We are still growing. That's all we have for you guys in this show. But make sure you tune in tomorrow. Maybe Beamer makes another appearance. We'll get this AC guy to fix the AC here soon, and Beamer will not be so surprised by it. But we love every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for joining. If you have not already, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. With that said, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.